Ooh, interesting one. What are 3 of the most useful tools for a Scrum team to explore? Anything around feedback is going to be a good place. But let's start with the obvious one. The tool that they use to visualize their work. The Kanban, the Scrum board, the whatever you call it. You might be in an organisation that's already got an answer for that and they've decided that you will use system X, whatever. Okay, that decision's been made. And it's probably okay. But I would explore, before adopting it wholesale, you may have to start using it, but before adopting it, explore your work process. And by that I mean, if you're all together in a room, put it up on a wall. Recreate whatever that board looks like in the electronic tool and work with it every day, updating it. And if you're not in person, instead of on there, in a really easy to use and change system, be it a spreadsheet, be it a very simple sort of to-do list type thing with the multiple columns, something like a Trello, where as a team you can quickly switch and change, and that becomes important because as you're exploring your way of working, you're going to discover what works better and worse for you. You're going to understand what order this work actually happens in and how that can be used to support you. And once you've got that learning, once you've got that exploration, you can go back to the tool of record for the organisation and update it to reflect it. But very often organisations don't like you making these really quick changes all over the place. In fact, many of them take that authority away from you. So you need to find out what works for you. Don't fall into their pattern. So the first thing is understand that visualization. How do you understand your work? How does it flow through the system to create value for the customer? In the early days, you will have an idea and it will be wrong. It might be hugely wrong, but it's more likely to be a little bit wrong and it will need fine tuning. So when we're looking at that, explore the space, try things out. And I do have teams who, yes, they're required to use Jira and things like that. Nothing wrong with those, but they don't get on with it. So they have their own tool that they update throughout the day, and once a day they make sure the official tool is completely up to date. So that all the reporting and things that are built into the back of that all still happens. Okay, may not be completely real time, but the thing that they're doing, the tool that they're using, which for one of them is stickies on a wall, that's what they actually use. That's how they understand their system, and it works so much better for them. So it is about that exploring space. Other things that you want to be looking at tool wise, how do you build feedback into your process? How do you understand whether you're on the right track? In the software world, I'm talking about continuous integration systems and things like that, where you're submitting code changes, it's running loads of tests, and it's telling you whether or not you've broken your product. Outside of the software world, it gets a bit harder because you don't necessarily have those lovely computers doing all the work for you. But how do you close that loop? How do you make sure that what you're doing doesn't break other things? What are the tools available for you? And if there aren't any, what can you do? What can you create to close that gap? A lot of the agile world really revolves around reducing the time that feedback loop takes. And what we want to do is find those tools that work for us, the things that allow us to close that feedback loop, allow us to understand, are we solving the right problem and are we solving it in a good way? So many of the things that I work with, and a lot of the time I'm talking, is actually more about human systems. I don't want to call people tools, but it can be as simple as, how do we schedule our day so that we know we can talk to the customer, to the product owner, to the sponsor, whoever it is we need to, on a daily basis. So that they see and understand as the product evolves, and they can help nudge it and steer it to where it needs to be. Not because we don't know our job, but because they know what's in their head better than they could ever articulate. And if they see it, they can start giving you feedback. And I'm not talking about scope creep, and so many people jump on me for saying, but it's not scope creep. Recognize scope creep for what it is. That is when they're adding things that were not in scope. They're talking about additional stuff. This is the nuances around trying to solve a problem, and it may be one that the developers will never 100% understand, because they don't necessarily do the job of the people who are experiencing it. They're going to get as close as possible, and that's why we want that feedback. But they're never going to completely understand it. So bring that together. It may be as simple as having a daily meeting straight after the daily Scrum where the product owner is available. This is what we're building. What do you think? Let's have a conversation. Let's make sure that we're in the right place, going in the right direction. Okay? It may be the systems and the technologies like continuous integration that really help people. But whatever it is, you need to explore that space. You need to understand what feedback looks like for you in your context, what good feedback looks like, and how to speed it up. Third tool, what else would we look at? Communication. Communication is vital to all of this. Lots of the clients I've worked with say it's all very chaotic, it's all very hectic, and yeah, it is. That's people doing a lot of work in the right direction. They need to talk a lot, throwing ideas around, bouncing things off each other, picking up problems as they happen. All of that requires talking. So you need to make sure that the tools you use for communication support that, not stifle it. So email is a great example of something that is not good. Okay? If you need to send emails, fine, send it afterward. Send it there to say, we just had this confirmation. Cover your ass that way if that's what you want to do. I would question the organisation that you're in, but that's your choice. Instead, we want to use tools that have instant messaging, that ability to spin up a conversation really quickly, get in touch with the right people at the right time, and not be beholden to somebody else. We don't want to create dependencies on external people, or really internal people. If I as a team member need to talk to you, I should be able to just do that. I don't need to go and talk to your team lead or whoever about, why can't I just ping you? If we were in the office and I saw you going for a coffee, I could just stand up, walk over to you, and we could have a chat over a cup of coffee. That's what we're trying to replicate. Right? Keep it that simple. So all the instant messagings, the Slacks, the Teams, all of these things, they're great. But they need to be used, and used correctly. Okay? And correctly is going to change team by team. But understanding that and playing around with those ideas can really help you. So I am not, and I'm very unlikely to ever give you straight tools recommendations, because for each team it's going to be different. Sometimes you're going to have to sit within whatever the organisation says. Sometimes you're going to have the option to explore and choose your own. But whatever tool you end up with, through your choice or somebody else's, you still need to explore its usage. Understand for you what good looks like, how to use it, what the rules of the game are. Okay? Bring those out, be explicit, include them as part of your working agreement, how we as a team function, so that everybody knows how to work together. And then bring it in and refine it and improve it through the retrospective process, continuous improvement on those tools. So I'm not going to give you 3 tools per se, but always think about how to increase the ability to feedback, that speed around the loop. If you've got to this point in the video, I hope you've enjoyed it. If so, a like would be appreciated. If you want to hear more from me, more answers to questions that maybe you've got in the Agile world, please subscribe to the channel. And if you've got a question that you really want answered, drop it in the comments. I promise we'll get around to it. Thank you.